My name is Steve Reuter, and I'm the facilitator for the Northern California Business Advisory Council. The Business Advisory Council was formed in 2015, and I'm proud to note that today is our 14th event that we've hosted for the business community. This is our first virtual event. Along with everyone else, the Business Advisory Council has had to pivot and discover new ways and new methods to do the work that we do. We usually serve a continental breakfast at our events, and I hope that everyone has a coffee and a pastry that you can enjoy as we spend the next hour and a half together. I see a number of businesses here today that we've partnered with over the years. Of course, there's also a lot of businesses who are joining us for the first time today. Welcome, and we look forward to partnering and joining with you. Before we move on, I should note that today is a webinar format rather than a Zoom meeting. You won't be able to turn on your cameras, and you won't be able to use your microphones. Please, we do want you to stay engaged and to be able to ask your questions. So if you would type your questions in the chat box as you have them, I will relay the top questions to our panelists during our discussion times. Before we get started, I should do a quick overview about the purpose of the Business Advisory Council. We provide a forum to feature businesses that have experienced the benefits of working with our partners so they can share their experiences with other businesses. Looking over the list of people who are joining us today, I see we have guests from several of the businesses that we've featured at previous Business Advisory Council events, including SMUD, the Sacramento Superior Courthouse, and Franklin Templeton, who's presenting with us today. The second purpose of the Business Advisory Council is to assist your business with problem solving your workforce needs. Today's presentations will give you a sample of some of the supports that the partner agencies can assist your business with becoming more efficient, increase profits, and survive today's challenges. Third, we're able to connect you with our employment and workforce development partners who make up the BAC. And finally, we are here to help your business explore strategies to expand the diversity of your workforce. I need to note that all of the services of the Business Advisory Council and of our partners are offered at no cost to you or to your business. There are four key partners that make up the Business Advisory Council. First and foremost, you, the business leaders. We understand that running a successful business, even in the best of times, is very challenging. It is a very challenging time. The sole purpose of the BAC is to partner with and support you and your business to become more successful. The second component of the BAC are the local supported employment agencies who support the people with developmental disabilities as they're hired into the workforce. The supported employment agencies that are with us today include Southside Unlimited, Best Buddies, and Progressive Employment Concepts, who will be presenting today about their project with Franklin Templeton. The third component to the Business Advisory Council are the local and state workforce development agencies, including Golden Sierra Job Training Agency, who's presenting today, Sacramento Employment Training Agency, or SETA, and the Department of Rehabilitation. And finally, Alta California Regional Center, the Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at the UC Davis Mind Institute that I represent, and the State Council on Developmental Disabilities are all partners that support the Business Advisory Council. There are four key groups of partners that make up the Business Advisory Council. First and foremost, I'm sorry, I just went through that. Some of the key areas that the Business Advisory Council usually supports business with include supporting businesses with specific workforce needs that are difficult to fill, finding employees who are motivated, engaged, and have high retention rates, and assisting businesses with expanding the diversity of their workforce to include people with disabilities. Obviously, during 2020, there's been an entirely new set of challenges that the business are facing. Many businesses have experienced significant disruption to their business delivery models, as well as challenges to their workforce. While they've been in crisis, businesses have had to adapt to these new demands, as well as respond to major changes in our labor law. And of course, many businesses have closed, needed to suspend services, or are in major flux. Given the massive challenges that businesses are facing today, why are we hosting an event today on intentionally recruiting people with disabilities into your workforce? Some have asked if this is a subject that would be better waited to highlight until the economy recovers. However, today we are presenting 4 strategies that may be especially important to your business today during this time of disruption. First, businesses are needing to become more efficient and may benefit from hiring someone to do tasks that, while essential, pull your core employees away from their specialized skill set. This strategy is known as job carving. The second strategy is reducing the time and the cost of onboarding. Advertising, weeding through piles of resumes, and interviewing large pools of candidates is a very costly and time-intensive process. The partners of the Business Advisory Council can assist you with quickly being introduced to candidates who have been screened and recommended for your needs. When successful, you have saved an enormous amount of time and money. And if you decide to broaden your search afterwards, you've lost very little time and no money on the process. The third strategy of utilizing paid internships that our partners can provide can be an enormous savings during the costly training and ramp-up period for new hires. All of our presentations today will feature paid internships as well as elements of the first 3 strategies. Finally, regarding the retention and hiring hiring for retention, let me turn to the next slide. Here's some national data that reflects the work of our partners locally. The retention rates for people with disabilities is consistently found to be 6 to 8 times higher than the general workforce. The data on this slide compares the turnover rates for employees with disabilities to the general workforce at Marriott hotels, Washington Mutual, and Pizza Hut. This is not cherry-picked data. These numbers are replicated in study after study and in experience after experiences amongst businesses. Of course, many of these employees do not stay in their initial positions. They progress and go on to new positions as their skill and experience builds. We will be providing today each attendee with several resources with additional information and research for your business to review. But now it's time to hear directly from a business that has experienced the benefits of working with the Business Advisory Council. Our first presentation today is from Franklin Templeton and their work with progressive employment concepts. Melina Madrigal is the project manager of global talent acquisitions at Franklin Templeton Investments. Melina spoke at one of our previous business advisory. The ability recruitment program that she oversees has expanded. So please welcome her back as she shares how partnering with progressive employment concepts has benefited the efficiency and work at Franklin Templeton.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone for joining today. I hope that our story will inspire you to join us on this journey in advocating for disability workplace inclusion. The topics that will be covered are my story, how we started the program, the growth of our program, the variety of partnerships at Franklin Templeton that we've developed over the years, the steps to success in setting up your own program, and of course, we'll talk about program successes. First, to understand my passion for disability workplace inclusion, I will start with telling you my personal story. At the age of 2, we noticed that our son Christian had some language, social, and cognitive delays. So my journey as a disability advocate started in 2004. Over the years, we discovered that he was on the autism spectrum, has a speech and language disability, and a learning disability. I've included on this slide this heart-wrenching IQ scale that was shown to us on our journey by professionals who made assumptions about what Christian would be able to achieve in the future. Limits were placed on him. In that moment, I made a promise to Christian to never place limits on what he could do. And today, I'm blessed to be able to advocate for adults with different abilities in the workplace, and I hope you will join me on this journey. Fast forward to 2017. Progressive Employment Concepts literally knocked on our door, came into our HR lobby at Franklin Templeton with their client, and provided her information in a business card. That information was provided to me, and here we are today. Andrea was our first hire into our Ability Recruitment Program in May of 2017 in Rancho Cordova. Let's hear about Andrea's story.
Hardworking, detail-oriented, and a team player. That's how Andrea is known with her peers at Franklin Templeton Investments. She currently works in the Customer Operations Support Services Group, although she has had the opportunity to help several departments.
She's positive. We love having her on the floor.
It was a huge benefit to our team, and the work that she was getting done helped our department as a whole.
Ken and Dean are supervisors who supported the idea of bringing Andrea on.
We weren't sure, what it was going to be like when she came in and how we were supposed to train her, etc. But we found it to be really easy.
When I first met her, she came in and she kind of seemed a little bit nervous about the multiple systems she was going to be using for her responsibilities. After a few days with her job coach, she was pretty much self-sufficient.
Andrea is part of the Ability Recruitment Program at Franklin Templeton Investments. The program provides job opportunities to individuals with disabilities.
These are individuals with abilities beyond expectations.
The program is one of many examples of diversity and inclusion at Franklin Templeton. Ken and Dean will tell you not only does Andrea help get much needed work done, but her presence has changed the team's working dynamic for the better.
The respect I saw from my team out of it and the team building I saw, I just can't stress enough the changes I saw within our team as a whole and the way our different team members stepped up to help out.
What we found out is that we can do a lot more than we thought we could. And it has kind of opened our eyes to how to leverage people.
This is where you can take out books.
One of the benefits Andrea enjoys is having access to the lending library in the employee lounge.
There were books that were from my house, but are now here.
Her contributions are a great example of what's possible when hiring managers keep an open mind.
Give it a try. Don't frame someone as far as what they can or can't do. It really can change a culture, having different types of people.
After Andrea started with us, as you can see by this next slide under our program growth, in 2017, we hired additional individuals into the program for a total of 4 participants at our Rancho Cordova site in various different departments. In 2019, we expanded our program to San Mateo and have had 2 program participants there. I have to say, in San Mateo, when we looked at this opportunity, we had some movement within different departments. So we thought, why don't we try to get individuals from our program in the door by supporting that move? So it's been really successful. And even though that move happened in the summer of 2019, we still have an individual supporting our facilities department there in San Mateo. Now moving on to 2020 at our St. Petersburg, Florida site, we've had some recent discussions with the Department of Rehabilitation, and we look forward to expanding our program in 2021 in Florida as well. Now, one of the amazing aspects of our program is the various departments that have partnered with us. And Amanda, who is one of our job coaches from Progressive Employment Concepts, is going to provide more detail on this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Palacio, as Milena said, and I work with Progressive Employment Concepts as one of their employment specialists. Like Milena said, one of the great things that we get to do with Franklin Templeton is partner with a variety of different departments. And like Dean said in the video about Andrea, we look towards leaders in Franklin Templeton who are ready to throw out their old biases of what people can and cannot do and what those assumed limitations are. And we look at departments who have a variety of needs. So as you can see, this is just a portion even of the departments that we have been able to work with and all of the different responsibilities that individuals have had in those departments. And they continue to grow, not just in Rancho Cordova and San Mateo, but they will continue to grow as we, as Milena works towards the St. Petersburg office in Florida. So we just wanted to demonstrate to you the vast amount of opportunity that is available, especially in a large company, but also in small companies.
Great, thank you, Amanda. Now, you may be asking yourself, how do I start a program like this? So now we're going to discuss the steps. The first step that you'll want to do after you identify a support agency to work with is to look for program advocates within your company. There's various ways you can go about this, so this is just an example of how we did this at Franklin Templeton. Number one, look for D&I champions within your organization. If you have a D&I executive council, talk to them about this idea. Also, talk to various leaders within the different business units as well. If you have a business resource group, or even a business resource group that's aligned to a disability-specific community, tap into them. I know that when we first started the program, I would literally look around the table and see who was sitting around the table that was in a leadership role and write down their name and go talk to them afterwards about the program. If you don't have a disability-specific BRG within your organization, talk to your other BRG groups if you have them. They're always more than welcome or happy to partner with you in this space. And if you have any internal social media platforms available to spread the word about your program, that's another great way to gain program advocates. We are very fortunate today to have one of our amazing leaders, Jeff Slovak, manager in our accounts payable department, that has been a key supporter of our ability recruitment program today. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
When Milena first approached me, it was, I'd been on the job. It was January 2018. I'd been on the job for about a month. And I was, had a group of about 35 people that I was managing and trying to get my hands wrapped around, just our policies and processes and procedures. But she was very passionate about the program and had identified somebody who had some great potential, and introduced me to and talked about this individual, Liza, who we ultimately ended up utilizing. And she made it really easy for me. At the time, I wasn't sure if there was anything that we could utilize Liza for. And I said, hey, maybe in 6 months, I can come back and we can talk. And she did 6 months later. But ultimately explained to me that the way that the program was set up, that we wouldn't have any sort of a budget hit. At the end of the day, a grant would be paying for Liza's work. So it was just a matter of if we could find things that Liza would be able to work on, kind of in a way, an unpaid internship. And that opened the door. And once Liza came on board, we realized pretty quickly that we wanted to keep her on and find new things and for her to do and see exactly. We were able to use her being a part of our team as a way of finding out just exactly what she was capable of.
And as Jeff mentioned, the discussion is key in having that conversation with individuals about the program. And as you can see on this next slide, these are discussion topics that When I meet with a leader, I usually tell them, do you have 15, 20 minutes to talk about the program? Great. Let's talk about these questions that are top of mind for them. And as you see these questions, you're probably thinking, yeah, these are really good topic discussions to talk through with them. Do they have a need? Do they know how to work with an individual with a disability? Do they have the knowledge? Do they have the time? Do I have the budget? Well, all of these questions are addressed with the support of the support agencies such as Progressive Employment Concepts at our Rancho Cordova office. And we just dialogue and talk through these. And usually at the end of the conversation, they're asking, well, how do I get started? So the next step is the pre-hire steps. And Amanda is going to share how this process works.
So the pre-hire process will vary from business to business as well as what your relationship is. I will say that for me and Milena, now that we've been working together for quite some time, we have this process down pat and we can go through it rather smoothly. But as soon as the job duties are identified, we set up time to meet with the department leaders and go over all of the specifics. And usually I'm able to come to that meeting with a number of different candidates that we can look at and discuss and see what is the best fit for that department in terms of what they do as a culture and what their communication style might be. And then we set up a time to sit down with the entire team as a whole and go through a little bit of disability awareness training, so that when whoever comes into their department does, that they're prepared to support that person as best as possible and in the most respectful way as possible. The key component of this training is not just education, but providing your team a safe place to express questions and concerns, and for us to dialogue just as a team on how can we address this, and as well as, you know, the role of the job coach, setting up clear expectations of what we do and do not do. It is very clear for Progressive Employment Concepts that we are not the supervisor. You know, in many departments, you have a very clear, this is the person that you address problems with, and we support people to understand those roles as employees, and we support the business to understand that role of the job coach as well.
Step 4 is the post-hire steps. So once the intern is on campus, what I will do is schedule a meeting with the supervisor to discuss their initial feedback, just in general to find out how things are going. I'll also schedule time with the intern to check in and make sure that they're feeling really good and supportive in the new role. And then number 3, internship funds do expire at either the 1-year mark of being in the role or once the $10,400 funding cap is met. That, of course, will depend on the individual's hours worked and their competitive salary that they're provided. We have some individuals in the program that are in the 9 to 20 hour range, but we do have somebody in the program that works close to the 40-hour range. So those that work more hours, obviously the funding cap will hit first before the 1-year mark, but it's one or the other. Now, what happens after the cap is met or the time limit is met? So this is something that I talk to the leadership about, is that there's really 2 options. One is that the internship is completed, or 2, as most of our program participants continue with funding from the department budget. The most rewarding part of this program is the impact to the program participants. I love this picture of Liza. Her smile reflects her genuine happiness and belonging, and now having real friends, as you can see in her quote. There's also the family impact component. These are two quotes from Liza and Andrea's family that reflect their gratefulness for the program and the successes that they've witnessed from their loved ones. Amanda, from a job coach perspective, what are you hearing or seeing from an impact lens?
So there are many different impacts that we see on our end, both with just the amount of satisfaction that individuals have within their role, as well as, like you were talking about, the family impact. Some people have used this employment as a stepping stone to move out on their own. They've been able to save with 401ks for retirement through Franklin Templeton. As well as right now during COVID-19, we see a lot of people who would otherwise be isolated during this time get to flourish with friendships and still a commitment to working from home while with Franklin Templeton.
Thank you, Amanda, for sharing that. Jeff, can you share your thoughts from a business impact perspective?
Sure. Well, as a manager, my first priority is oftentimes to the bottom line and to the team, making sure that my team is taken care of. Those are kind of my top two priorities. And, at first, Liza came on board and the impact from the bottom line, the cost was free. And we were able to get, work that she did out of that. Ultimately, once we got to the end of that funding, we had to make a decision. And at the same time, we were going through a department reorganization, and we had a bunch of other temporary employees who we were considering bringing on board as permanent employees. But because of the runway that we were given, we were allowed to really assess Liza's different abilities. And we very quickly realized that she could do some of the regular job responsibilities, setting up vendor files, for example, so that they could be paid within our system. She had the analytical ability to be able to, and the speed, the hard work ethic. So, we talked to the team, and ultimately the team said, hey, we'd rather have Liza on board. We think that she's, the best person for this position. And so we brought her on board. And ultimately, it's at a lesser cost than it would be a regular employee, in part because of the way that it's set up. We're paying her more certainly than she was getting, I think, paid previously as part of as the intern through the grant. But ultimately, the impact to our bottom line is definitely positive. The impact to our team has been incredible. We like to say that within our team, we look for diamonds in the rough, people who haven't had the opportunity, but, have the hard work ethic and the intelligence. And, she's a true diamond in the rough, and she's proven herself as part of the team. And we're just really happy that we were given the opportunity to be able to assess her at no cost to us. And ultimately, it was a smart business decision to bring her on board.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing the business impact. And I think there's one great, or many things you said that were wonderful in that, but one thing that made me think about, if individuals are found through like a regular staffing agency, yes, there would be an additional cost, right? And through this program, there isn't that additional markup. So that's another great selling point for the business. Now that we've covered the steps and successes of our Ability Recruitment Program, I hope that you will strongly consider contacting a support agency to assist with getting your program started. As we wrap up our portion of the call today, I would like you to think back to that IQ visual that I referenced at the beginning of this presentation and emphasize how important it is that we focus on an individual's abilities. While Christian continues to require supports and tools to be successful, he has achieved so much more than the professionals believed he could. It's imperative that we don't make assumptions about an individual's abilities, as was also stated in Andrea's video. Thank you for providing us with a platform today to talk about our ability recruitment program at Franklin Templeton.
The team of Franklin Templeton is just astounding. The work that's been done with the employment concepts and the ability recruitment program is really just a model program. I would like to now take some questions for Franklin Templeton and their team. And if you have not yet entered your questions into the question box, please do so and we will relay them to the presenters. I'm going to have one of our team members help to facilitate the questions that have already been asked.
Good morning. So there was a question regarding the funding source from an anonymous caller, and I answered the question. And the question was, who funds for the paid internship program or the wages? And the funding comes from the regional center. We're going to go in depth about the program in a little bit after this part of the question and answer.
Are there any further questions for Franklin Templeton?
Yes. Someone asked if they can receive a copy of the recording of the presentation.
Absolutely. We will be providing, this is recorded. We will be posting this presentation in a number of locations, including on the Business Advisory Council's LinkedIn page. And we will also be sending out an email that we can put where other locations are that we can that everyone can access this video.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. Another question asked, does the program address racial disparities in hiring practices for persons with disabilities? And the answer for that is yes. The regional center serves everyone, regardless of their racial or ethnic backgrounds. As long as they qualify for regional center services based on one of the 5 criteria.
And she'd like to hear Melina's and Jeff's response to that, as well as whether or not this program has met their internal.
Absolutely, Steve, as you mentioned, or Cindy mentioned, our program is open to all individuals that are provided to us through progressive employment concepts.
Yeah, and I would say from my perspective, we have metrics put in place to be able to assess efficiency and quality of work. And we ultimately use those metrics as the basis for making decisions and rating how employees are doing. So it's very easy to be able to tell that Liza was doing just as well as other employees, and that doesn't have anything to do with race or gender, based upon the fact that we're using metrics as the basis for making our decisions.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. Another question, is there a specific department or task you have found the individuals to thrive in?
Amanda, would you like to take that one from a job coach perspective?
Sure. No. A simple answer is no. We have worked with so many different individuals with different needs, different learning styles, different interests. So especially with such a diverse company such as Franklin Templeton and all of the many different departments that we've worked in, some of them tend to be assisting roles because we do a lot of job carving. And so individuals are assisting teams as a whole or individuals in leadership to make sure that they're getting the work done in an efficient manner. But other than that, there is no specific task or responsibility that has seemed to present itself more.
And I think that's apparent when we look back at the department partnerships. It's such a broad range of departments, right? From marketing, HR, payroll, facilities, and such a broad range of responsibilities as well.
Great, thank you, Melina. Another question, does the program offer opportunities for people with physical disability?
PEC as an agency has a zero exclusion policy. So despite what other agencies might utilize in terms of their requirement as ready to work individuals, PEC does not participate in any version of criteria of individuals who may or may not be ready to work or able to work. We don't subscribe to any of that ideology. So we serve all individuals, and we just identify people based off of, like I said before, skills and kind of needs of the business.
Great, thank you, Amanda. Philip asked, during COVID, are you facing any challenges?
That's a really good question. We've had to set up folks to work from home, and that you know, comes with challenges just with anybody transitioning to work from home, right? But we do provide the supports. We get the job coach involved, the leader, even myself at times, to make sure we're setting them up appropriately with the right tools to work from home. And we've been very fortunate to even have that option. We do have some roles that are on campus because they are essential roles, and they're on a team with like a rotating team. And Amanda, I don't know if you want to kind of expand on that with Dean and Andrea, where they are on different teams and smaller groups that come on campus on a more frequent basis and how that's been. Amanda, would you mind expanding on that?
Yes, so that team in particular does have a rotating team schedule as their precaution to reduce their exposure to potential COVID-19. And that team works as like a team A and team B, and they rotate every other week coming in. And that's what they have been doing as their other, you know, in addition to, of course, face mask wearing and proper hand hygiene and things like that.
I would like to make sure that we have time for our next two presentations today. We will have an opportunity at the end of our following two presentations for questions to be asked of all panelists. So if there are further Franklin Templeton questions, we can include those with the in our next session. So we're now going to hear back-to-back presentations about paid internship programs that are offered both by the regional centers and by the American Job Centers, both of which operate throughout our state of California. Because both of these presentations do focus on paid internships, please enter your questions throughout the presentations, and we'll wait to have our Q&A following both presentations rather than breaking after each. Because the paid internships that Franklin Templeton used are run through the regional center, we will first hear from Cindy Lay and Ivan Ars, who are both who work at both regional centers in Northern California.
Great, thank you so much, Steve. Again, my name is Cindy Lay. I am the Climate Employment Specialist at Alta Regional Center. My role at the Regional Center is I oversee the development and also quality assurance for employment programs. I've been with the Regional Center for about 5 years and also 10 years at another Regional Center. I'm going to go ahead and let Ivan introduce himself.
Thanks, Cindy. And thank you everyone for your time today and your interest in learning about our system. My name is Ivan Arce. I am the employment specialist at North Bay Regional Center. Function very similarly to Cindy. I do work with our day services and our employment services, and I'm very happy to be here. So in brief, we'll give a brief overview of our regional center system. As Steve mentioned, we have a presence in the state of California, so there are different regional centers serving the spread from San Diego all the way up to Redding, to the border. And our goal as a regional center is to assist individuals with intellectual and or developmental disabilities to maximize their independence, to be a part of their community in different domains of their life. Today, through the paid internship program, it's our more favorite domain, which is employment. And the paid internship has offered different opportunities for individuals to engage in employment of their interest. We do have 21 regional centers in California. We operate independently as nonprofits, and we are funded by the California Department of Developmental Services. We also receive federal funding, and we are a funding agency. So the way that we function, and we'll go over this in a little bit, is that we fund service providers to support our individuals, similar to Amanda's team, as she described her services earlier. So we are a funding agency for these types of support. We provided a few links if you guys are interested in our regional centers, and the California department that oversees our operation.
Okay, so for the Sacramento region, we serve Sacramento, El Dorado, Alpine, Sutter, Yolo, Yuba, Colusa, Placer, Nevada, and Sierra. So we have outlying offices in almost all of the counties listed here, except for 2. Ivan?
Yes, thanks, Cindy. So for the North Bay Regional Center, we cover Solano, Napa, and Sonoma.
As Milena mentioned, the regional center would pay the client's wages and any employee-related costs up to $10,400. So the purpose of the program is to help individuals acquire skills and experience for future paid employment, either at the place where they intern or similar employment somewhere else. The paid internship program, there is no stipulation on the number of hours or the number of internships the individual could participate in. The only caveat is the dollar amount does not exceed $10,400 for the year. Okay, so there are a few requirements that we look for when we place someone in an internship. And Milena brought up a very important aspect, which is integration. And we would like integration for all the individuals we serve, meaning that they are working alongside their peers without disabilities, so they have the same opportunities to interact and be engaged in the workforce and also in the community. At regional centers, we also have board adopted policy on employment where we foster each individual's informed choice to choose integrated employment as their first option. The second aspect of the paid internship program is competitive wages that is consistent with whatever the state and local minimum wage is for the position. Ivan?
Yes, and the third aspect is for individuals to receive the same benefits, the same perks like anybody else that works doing the same type of work. The fourth would be to provide the individual with real life work experience. The goal of the internship is to help the person understand what that field entails with and how it supports their employment goal. But the goal for the internship is to give them that opportunity to learn and be challenged in a positive way, of course, but to give them that real work. So the 2 types of internships that we'll focus on today, one of them is a traditional. I think we had a few examples shared earlier by Franklin Templeton. And this is where an individual would get different types of learning opportunities where they are working alongside people with different abilities and earning similar wages through the paid internship program. The other type of internship is apprenticeship. And this one is focused more on trades that are specific to the person's interest. We've seen, varieties. Some can be, some that I've heard of have been people working through welding. We've seen some interest for folks that want to weld. We've seen some folks that want to work at animal shelters. So it's very specific to their interests, and that one's based more through the apprenticeship type of internship.
This is one of the, when we talk about the internship, a lot of questions come up regarding, so how are wages being passed down to the individuals? Well, we have different ways of passing down the wages to the individuals that participate in a paid internship program. One of them is by a service provider. And what that means is that the service provider is going to add the intern onto their payroll, and they take the information from the employer as far as wages and any employer-related costs. They pay the intern, and then they will get reimbursed from the regional center. The second option is for the business themselves to add the individual onto their payroll. They will then have a contract or an agreement with the service provider that supports the individual, and they would get reimbursed by the service provider. In this case, for Franklin Templeton, that was Progressive Employment. And then the service provider will bill the regional center and they get reimbursed that way.
So this one refers to our supports. As we mentioned earlier, as a regional center, we are a funding agency, and supports that we would fund in an internship would be primarily a job coach, which we learned a little bit about earlier today from Amanda. Job coaches provide an array of services. Their goal, as shared earlier, is not to be the supervisor, but to support individuals in getting ready for that employment of their choice, and to also learn the skills that they need. So it's more of assisting the individual get acclimated to their work, to their functions, to their routine, and to assist the individuals in troubleshooting or resolving any issues, or advocating or having those discussions that they might not want to have, but their job coaches, they're there to support them in engaging and helping them as for what they need to continue contributing at their employment site. And but yeah, these are services that will be funded through the regional center. The job coaches will be supporting those main points.
All right, so over the years since the implementation of the paid internship program through the regional centers in 2016, we have many businesses that have used paid internships. And again, these are internships that were based on the informed choice of the individuals that we serve, and with supports from the service providers such as Progressive, they were able to help identify internships based on the choices that were chosen. So some of the places or employers that have utilized the paid internship program were state and government agencies, local nonprofits, utility, healthcare, education, financial, technology, media, retail, restaurant, grocery, farming, animal service, and beauty. So these are just a few. And lately we have been seeing an increase in delivery businesses as well. All right, so that concludes our presentation from the regional centers regarding the paid internship program.
Golden Sierra Job Training Agency has been a longtime partner with the Business Advisory Council. I've made many referrals to Golden Sierra and have consistently received very positive reviews of both the center and our next presenter, Jessica Conant.
Hi, everybody. So like Steve said, my name is Jessica Conant, and I am the Disability Resource Coordinator for Golden Sierra Job Training Agency. And today my goal is to share information about our no-cost business services, and we've branded those as Next. So that's why you have the Next on all the slides. And I just want to tell you all that I miss being in person so much, but I'm so incredibly thrilled that we have so many people participating on this call today. I know that when we do these in-person events, it's hard to take time out of your business and maybe drive a little bit of a distance, or I know we've held these in Sacramento before and it's hard to drive in traffic. So I'm so excited that there are so many people here today. So Golden Sierra, we identify two main customers, employers and job seekers. So we serve businesses and residents of Alpine, El Dorado, and Placer counties. But if your business is not located in one of those counties, not a problem, because there is a an agency or a system in every single county in the United States. So there's a really cool tool. It's on careeronestop.org, and I can actually add that to the chat when I'm done presenting the link. But no matter what county your business resides in, or if you know a job seeker who needs services where they reside in, you can just plug in your zip code and it'll pop up with the closest One Stop or America's Job Center system that's located near you. So I'm assuming a lot of businesses here are probably located in Sacramento. And for those of you who are not familiar, the Sacramento agency that would be able to support you is the Sacramento Employment and Training Agency, or a lot of people know it as SETA. So funding. Where does funding come from to help local businesses through the America's Job Center locations? And it is through, and again, like Steve said at the beginning, all of these services are available to job seekers and employers at absolutely no cost. Although I do like to remind you that you're all paying taxes. So this is kind of a way for you to get some of that tax revenue back, because our funding comes from the Department of Labor through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, also known as WIOA. So get some of that tax money back and use these services that are really great to help keep your business strong and also help you to retain job seekers. Oh, I forgot to mention on the previous slide, but don't go back, Steve. We also, in addition to our traditional funding, we also receive special grants periodically, either through the state or other special agencies in order to assist specific populations. So Golden Sierra works with all job seekers, all employers. It's not based on disability or any other kind of special population. We really seek to serve our community. So we're a little bit different than Alta in that way, as we have a little bit of a broader range of who we can serve as far as job seekers go, or like your Department of Rehabilitations. So we have this funding, right? We have this money that comes in from the Department of Labor, and what can we do with it to support businesses in general? The first thing I'm going to talk about is OJTs, or on-the-job trainings. I think that this is probably going to be the funding stream that's most interesting to most employers here today. On-the-job training provides a wage reimbursement system to help offset costs associated with training new employees. So you guys are all HR owners, business leaders. You know that when you hire someone, you have to take time on the front end. You have to take time, your manager's time, your supervisor's time, in order to train people coming in. Even if they have the majority of the skills that you're looking for, you still have to take that time to train them and support them while they're learning and growing in your company. So what Golden Sierra does is we try to offset that. So if you hire someone and they qualify for this program, we can actually reimburse up to 75%. So typically it's 50%, but in some cases we can go up to 75% of the wages that you are paying that employee during that training period. And it's a predetermined training period that I'll go over in a second. And that the maximum amount on that we've identified is $8,000. So $8,000 per participant is the maximum amount that we would be able to reimburse. So what does that look like for you, right? Because it's a lot of numbers and words I'm throwing around. So with an OJT, what you're doing as an employer is you're identifying, here's the person I want to hire. Here's the skills gap for that employee. Here are the things that, and we have you outline, here's the list of things that you're going to have to train them on. And then what we do is we help you to determine how much time it's going to take to train them. So typically we look at 2 to 4 months to get that person trained. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It really is very subjective depending on the employer and what you're trying to train them on and how long you think that might take. So during the training period, what we ask you to do is we ask you to submit time cards and wage reports. So maybe depending on the length of the contract, it might be monthly. At the end of the month, you might submit how much you paid them, how many hours they worked, and what skills you were able to train in that month. And then we would then reimburse you as the employer for up to 75% of those wages, whatever the contract ended up being. You as the employer pay all wages and taxes for that employee. So they are your employee. And the idea is that you will be retaining them after we're done reimbursing you. So although that doesn't always work out, that is the goal for the on-the-job training. And that is kind of what we look at as far as when we do new on-the-job training contracts with employers that we've worked with in the past. Let's see, what else do I want to say about that? The paperwork is pretty minimal. There is a contract that we'll develop with you and the training plan, like I said before, which identifies what skills you need to train in. We'll also look at the individual and make sure we can determine that they don't already have those skills before we move forward. And then again, like I said, the reimbursement paperwork is pretty self-explanatory too. It's one page. It just has you list the wages, the hours, and then we have you submit documentation. So copies of their pay stubs is usually the easiest. And the paperwork can be done by a supervisor or manager in most cases. Sometimes we do work with companies where an HR manager or professional will take care of that, but the majority of the time it's done by their direct supervisor or manager. So as an example, during COVID, we have been working with a small local business in El Dorado County, and they do their shredding service, so a paperwork shredding service. And this has been a really cool partner for us, or employer partner for us, because they have been able to take in people through OJTs in a bunch of different positions. So since COVID, they've hired 2 people and retained them. One of them was in an accounting position. So the participant already had some base knowledge of accounting, but they didn't have the up-to-date skills. So they were going to need to be trained. So the shred company set up a contract with us and with the participant, hired the participant. The participant's still learning and growing. They've already received a raise. And it's just kind of a cool partnership because there's lots of different types of positions that a participant could go into within this small company. So they were able to hire and train 2 people since COVID and use our funding to do that. And I do want to tell you that these were what we call reverse referrals. And a reverse referral means that we didn't send the participants to them. They actually advertised their own job. They received resumes, whatever their process was for that. They identified people that they wanted to hire, and then they sent those people to us to see if we could have them qualify for the on-the-job training funds. So they kind of took out us as the middle and put us in just as the middle. We didn't do the front end. We didn't refer people to them. They found their own employee, and then we determined whether or not we could provide that additional funding for them. The 2 main qualifications, if you are looking at doing something like this for the participant, is that they're currently either unemployed or underemployed. So if you want to hire someone from a rival company and they're already working in that kind of position, we wouldn't be able to provide on-the-job training. But if you are hiring someone who's unemployed, underemployed, and they do need, you can identify that they're going to need some additional assistance in order to be successful, some additional training, then that would be a good reverse referral to us to see if we could do an on-the-job training for you. The next one I want to talk about is a paid internship. We call them a WEX, a work experience. So I'm going to say WEX probably, and I apologize. I know we try really hard not to use acronyms, but it's so ingrained. So an internship or WEX is an opportunity for your business to host paid interns. The intern will work at your business and you will determine what type of position that you would like them to work in. They can't take the place of an existing employee. So if you are looking for a front desk type, reception type position, and you have just recently, maybe someone got laid off or someone quit, we wouldn't be able to put an intern in that position because that's already a predetermined position. But you could have a front desk assistant, right, that the intern could fill, and they could assist your already existing position. There's absolutely no cost to participate in this program. And in addition to that, and that's different from the OJT, there's no obligation for you to hire that person at the end of the internship. Although in a perfect ideal world, we would always love that to happen. We would love for an internship to lead directly into employment. But as we, let me backtrack. So Golden Sierra will actually be the employer of record. So you will not be the employer. You will be the mentor. You will be the trainer. You will be the host site. And Golden Sierra assumes all liability for wages and for workers' compensation. These internships can last no longer than 19 weeks, so they're fairly short term, and the wages are the prevailing wage for the position. So oftentimes in our youth program, we pay minimum wage for these positions because they are very entry level, but sometimes they might not be. They might be, if we looked at the prevailing wage for a similar type of position in our area and they pay more than minimum wage, if we can justify that, then we can pay that intern more than minimum wage. And again, this has that same cap of $8,000. So the length of time, it can sometimes be determined by the amount of funding there is. So potentially it couldn't last up to 19 weeks because we're paying them a little bit more or they're working more hours. That's another thing I wanted to mention is the hours. The internship does not have to be full-time. It could be part-time. It could be 30 hours a week. It could be whatever works well for your organization and the intern coming in. As an example, we have partnered with an organization called Compassion Planet located in Rockland, and they're a nonprofit. They run a thrift shop and another kind of little boutique-y shop in Rockland, and they do awesome work. They work a lot with former foster youth, and they have several different programs outside of us to help young adults gain skills and confidence and soft skills, really, in order to be successful once they've transitioned out of that job. So through that partnership, we've been extremely successful with having them host young adults where we pay the wages. So it's not a free internship, it's a paid internship. And the company, what they do is they provide those real world, tangible skills in a supported environment. And what I mean by a supported environment, if a youth or a young adult or maybe someone with disabilities who hasn't had a lot of work experience comes into a traditional job, if they're late or if they don't understand how to communicate with their coworkers or maybe their supervisors, they could potentially get laid off or fired if they don't have those skills. But in a supported environment, the mentor is able to say, hey, let's sit down and talk about how do we have a conversation with our coworkers? How do we handle conflict? Why is it important to show up on time and ready to work? So those are just some examples of how Compassion Planet has been able to really work with our youth population to help them build those soft skills. Let's see, rapid response and layoff aversion. So these are two business-specific services that we offer, and it's really there to support businesses in times of downfall or crisis. So we're all experiencing COVID. I'm sure that COVID in whatever way has affected your business or affected you. So if your business is looking at layoffs or if you've already experienced layoffs, we can assist you with special programs designed to help you either retain your employees or assist your employees through their next steps. So we can help your employees with resources, career counseling, with reemployment, and we can also help you with HR concerns. So we partner with a lot of different agencies, but primarily the California Employers Association to host HR webinars or to host we had a free phone line. I think it might be ending though. But during the beginning of COVID, we were able to offer like an HR phone line for businesses to call in and ask those questions like, how can I bring people back safely? What does that look like? So if you need help with things like that, we can also either refer or find the information for you. We also offer referrals to businesses for special assistance grants or programs to help you through the layoffs or downsizing. And we also can provide reopening assistance when the time comes. So if your business is still closed, or maybe it's just closed to the public, if you need assistance, if you need referrals on where to get your PPE equipment, so your masks and your hand sanitizer and everything else that you need, we can definitely refer you or get that information for you or get those things for you. We partner, so I've mentioned partnership, we partner with a lot of different agencies and programs throughout the greater Sacramento region and nationally. So if we can't help you directly, I would be willing to bet or put money on it that we would know who could, or we would find out. On our website, you can also find a business resource guide, which will give you, if you don't want to talk to someone directly, it will give you some of those referral ideas. The last thing I want to mention is posting jobs and pre-screening. So if you're looking at hiring, which I know a lot of businesses are, even though job seekers don't seem to think they are, if you're looking at hiring, we can actually post job openings for you. And primarily we use and have found a lot of success with social media. And we use a system called CalJobs to post jobs. CalJobs is, it's kind of like posting jobs on ZipRecruiter or Indeed, except that there's no cost. And the kind of the get for me with CalJobs is that every single person who filed for unemployment is required to be registered and to use the CalJobs system to look for work. So if you're trying to capture a really big amount of local people who've been laid off or who were affected by COVID and who are potentially looking for jobs, hopefully, CalJobs is a great system to put your job posting in. And again, it's no cost. We, social media, we use Facebook and LinkedIn primarily, and we've joined a lot of Facebook groups where the groups are specifically geared toward job search. And so we've had a lot of luck with finding people who are looking for work through the Facebook groups and LinkedIn. And we can actually do a kind of a pre-screen of candidates, because if we put the job posting out there, we can actually have them send their resumes directly to us. And so when we get that resume, we'll review it for your basic qualifications. We can have a conversation with that person to make sure that they have what you're looking for before we forward that resume on to you. So that's another option if you're interested. Along with everyone else, we've been affected by COVID, and we ended up closing our doors in March, and we transitioned all of our staff into work from home, into a work from home status. And for those of you who don't know, we operate a small career center in Roseville. So that's one of the services that we offer job seekers, is for them to be able to physically come in and use computers, attend workshops, get to know our staff, look at our walled job board. So that has been closed, which has been a struggle, but we are actively, very active in the virtual world. We are attending workshops, we're hosting presentations, we're meeting with employers, we're meeting with job seekers virtually. We've started to, on a case-by-case basis, meet up with people in person. So we've had several small employers who are not really comfortable with the virtual world, who we've been able to still go out and meet with them one-on-one to talk about services, but it is a case-by-case basis, and it's ever evolving, just like with everybody else. So you just loved everything that I said, and now you want to know, well, what do I do next? How do I get my business in touch with these services? So if you are located in Placer, El Dorado, or Alpine counties, I'm going to give you the information on how to reach out to us. If you are located in a different county and you want to work with your America's Job Center, again, use that Career One Stop. And again, I'll put that in the chat, I think, if everyone can see the chat, or we can send that link out later. But the best way to contact us is to either call and leave a phone message. We have a case manager who's assigned to check messages every day. So we're oftentimes getting back to people same day. And that phone number is 916-746-7722. And the other way is to go online and fill out, it's just a really short little form, and it's at our website, which is goldensierra.com/next. And again, next is our branding for our business services. So if you would like us to reach out to you, contact us in one of those two ways, and we will get back to you absolutely as soon as possible. So I look forward to any questions, and thank you so much. And I look forward to serving you and your business. And I hope that next year we'll all be in person again, having coffee and what did you say, Danishes?
So thank you, Jessica. One of the things that I just want to point out is that there's been a lot of information that's been presented today. And that's exactly why the Business Advisory Council exists. Is we can act as a clearinghouse. We can connect you with different services and agencies that are our partners. And if you contact us and you're unsure of which of these services may be most appropriate for your business, then we can help you to guide you towards the service that's going to be the best fit for you, or to make some direct connections. So we do have about 15 minutes for opportunities for people to ask questions. And if perhaps Cindy, if you could come back on and facilitate the questions that have been asked of both of these paid internship and as well as. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Steve. So it looks like 4 of the questions that were left from a previous presentation with Franklin Templeton has already been answered. But I would just like to take a moment to review those questions in case people call in and don't have access to the computer to view the answers. One of the questions was for Franklin Templeton, what percentage of interns continued with the company? And the answer was from Milena, and out of the 4 program participants in Rancho Cordova, 3 out of the 4 have continued employment. 2 program participants in San Mateo still have funding available. The next question asks, is this for people with mental health diagnosis as well? And Amanda answered the question, and Amanda is from Progressive Employment Concepts. And the answer is, we serve all people that receive services from Alta Regional Center or Department of Rehabilitation. So specifically for Regional Center services, a person can have a secondary diagnosis, but one of the primary diagnoses has to be one of the conditions that qualify for Regional Center services, and that includes autism, epilepsy, intellectual disability, and the 5th category, which resembles someone with an intellectual disability. And the next question is, does the program accept people who have seizures? Again, if you have a qualifying condition for Regional Center services or Department of Rehabilitation, you can certainly receive services. Does the program take people who have a service dog? And the answer was from Amanda, that they have a 0 exclusion policy, so they do not exclude people based on support needs, and this includes the use of service dogs. And a question came in if they can receive a copy of the recording, and yes, it's going to be on YouTube. So for
if I can just add to that, again, if people contact the Business Advisory Council, regardless of the disability that you experience, there are services in Sacramento that we can link you to. There are services that focus on mental health exclusively, and so there are services that we can help filter and direct you to, regardless of the disability that you experience.
Thank you, Steve. So we have about 4 more new questions that came through. At what age do the individuals become eligible for these programs? So I can't answer from a regional center perspective. So we serve anyone from birth through death. However, for some of our adult services, that starts at the age of 18 if they have a high school diploma, or 22 with a certificate of completion. We do have regulations set in place that prohibits the regional center from funding for services for students or individuals who still qualify for school services. And perhaps Jessica can answer the other question regarding her programs.
Sure. So our adult funding is to serve adults, so that would be 18 and over, no end age. And then we do have a youth program that serves youth ages 16 to 24. And the stipulation with our youth program, even though it says 16, is they have to be out of school. So if they were going to be under 18, it would be someone who either graduated from high school early or potentially dropped out of high school. So that would be the age range for us.
Great, thank you, Jessica. And another question came in from Amy. Curious if there is someone who conducts disability awareness training with the worksite hiring manager and coworkers. Jessica, if you can answer that question, or perhaps Amanda.
Sure. So I would love to recommend, if there's probably, I mean, I know that there's way more than this, but I would recommend Department of Rehabilitation has a really a windmills training, right, Steve? And
Yes.
they are able to do this training either with managers or with your current employees in order to help them to understand disability etiquette.
For us at Progressive Employment Concepts, we conduct a disability awareness training with most of the businesses that we work with. We offer it to everybody, but sometimes businesses choose not to participate. And we have been working with Franklin Templeton on updating their hiring or recruitment training so that it would be a little bit more disability friendly.
Great. Thank you both. And
Cindy,
the next question.
I just wanted to add to that really quickly. I
Yes.
think that to Amanda's point, the inclusion awareness training is super important to have prior to an intern starting at your organization, because it provides that safe place for individuals to ask questions. So it's not just for the leader that's going to be directly supervising that intern, but inviting all of the individuals on the team, even groups that are sitting around that area where the intern will be sitting. It's something that everybody can learn from. So I would just highly encourage asking your service provider if they could provide that prior to the intern starting.
Great, thank you so much, Milena. Jessica, the next situation is directed to you. There's a client in internship with a nonprofit that would like to hire them, but they're facing financial challenges due to COVID. And it is not a client of the regional center. Could you potentially help to move this into a paid position?
Potentially. That's not a very good answer, is it? I would really need more information about the specific case. So I can, I hope that everyone's able to see the information I'm putting in the chat. Are the participants able to see the chat? Do we know? I can put my email address in there so that you can reach out to me directly.
We will also include that in follow-up emails to the group.
Okay, so when you get my email address, please feel free to send me a direct email and we can have a phone conversation or talk through email about the specific situation. If they're currently in an unpaid position and we have the ability to enroll them in our program, then maybe we could extend their internship to be paid. Maybe we can work with the employer to see if there's if we did an on-the-job training, if that would allow the funding to be a little bit more flexible that they have. So it would really just depend on a case-by-case basis.
Great, thank you, Jessica. And Amanda asked, how do you apply for Franklin Templeton internship or progressive employment concept?
So for Progressive Employment Concepts, we receive our referrals through Alta Regional Center and the Department of Rehabilitation. So if you are a client of the Regional Center or Department of Rehabilitation, you would use those agencies to then direct your referral to us. And then from there, if there was an opening available at Franklin Templeton, then we would include your resume and profile in the candidates that we would be sharing with them.
Great, thank you, Amanda. The next question asks if there is an appeal process if services are denied. This is for people who may be on the border or people who have applied for services, were denied, and months or years later, their condition has worsened. Ivan, would you like to take that question?
Of course, thanks, Cindy. So yeah, there is an appeal process. What we would encourage you to do is to go to one of our links. I think for Northfield Regional Center, we have an intake link that explains the appeal process. And yeah, if a person shows to need more support as time goes and their condition is more a parent and you have, maybe you have had doctors or other professionals provide additional assessments through school or through the doctor referrals, we would encourage you to have this information looked at, the more current information. But that information will be in our website. But if you can't find it, feel free to, we provided our contact information. Feel free to reach out and I can walk you through that information. But yeah, our intake team has encouraged when this happens, when they're not able to find the person eligible, they do offer the encouragement to provide more if it becomes available. If the condition worsens and there's more supporting information, we definitely want to be able to look at that a little bit closer.
Great, thank you so much, Ivan. Jessica, this question is for you. Does Golden Sierra work with employers in Sacramento?
Sure, and I can actually answer both the questions. The other one is a paid internship different than Alta Regional, so I'll answer both of those at the same time. So
sure,
we can work with Sacramento employees. We can work with, employers. We can work with any employers regardless of where they're located. The caveat is that every county receives this funding, right, or every local area. So we need to have some tie into the county that we're supporting. So Placer, El Dorado, Alpine. So if we have a resident of one of those counties who wants to work for an employer who happens to be located in Sacramento County or Yuba County or whatever, then we can justify using that funding. However, if it's a Sacramento business and a Sacramento resident, we would really want to make sure that we were referring over to SETA, which they get the same kind of funding to use specifically for that county. Now, there's also times where, let's say we're out of funding, because we do run out of funding. If we can't support that, then maybe SETA has funding and then they can support a Placer County resident if that works, and vice versa. So there's always ways around things, but the main thing to remember is that we're trying to support those 3 counties, and then there's money in every single county. And the other question was, is a paid internship different than the Alta Regional paid internship? Yes. Similar ideas, different funding streams, but they are 2 separate programs and they're funded by 2 different entities. So Golden Sierra is able to offer paid internships and Alta is able to offer paid internships, if that answers the question.
So we thank you. And we are almost out of time. And so I want to just do a couple of things and wrap up. For businesses who've been attending, now that you've heard about the advantage of partnering with the Business Advisory Council and the partners that make up the Business Advisory Council, we hope that we can to connect and stay in contact with you after today. Please feel free to contact us at our email, which is at norcal.bac@gmail.com, or look us up on LinkedIn like typing in Northern California Business Advisory Council. As I mentioned, you will receive a follow-up email with that will contain information about further research and information that may be helpful for your business, as well as the contact information for each one of the partners that were with us today. I would like to mention that both the Regional Center System and the American Job Centers that were featured today operate all throughout California. So regardless of where your business is located, there is one of these agencies, or both of these agencies, exist in the area that you're in. It's important that the members of the BAC get feedback about how our events are supporting you and your business. In a few moments, I'll be sending out a survey through a service called Qualtrics that we would appreciate if you would take a few minutes to give us your feedback about the event and how we can best serve your needs in the future. All the members of the Business Advisory Council would like to now thank you for the time that you've invested in being with us today. We recognize again that running a business is a very challenging endeavor, And taking some time today, I'm hoping that it was informative, and that the strategies that we covered and the services that the agencies represent will benefit you in your business.
The UC Davis Mind Institute was founded in 1998 with the promise to reduce and prevent the disabilities that can be associated with autism and other neurodevelopmental conditions. Every day, our clinicians and researchers make progress on that promise. Our groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other conditions associated with disability are helping affected individuals achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website or our social media platforms to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.